Hi everybody, it's Stefan again for ATutsPlus.com, and in this tutorial we are going to create a cool Flames logo review. So let's take a look at the preview and move on after that. Okay, let's get started with the tutorial. First of all, I'm going to drop my Flames MOV file into a new composition, and as you can see it's 60 frames per second. So I'm going to open the composition settings and let's call this background, and let's make it 30 frames per second, and you will see why. And just put the flames in this composition, and let's make them decrease the speed double, so we convert them actually to 30 frames per second. Doing that, and now we can set the end of our work area and right click and trim comp to work area and close that. And as you can see, this is our Flames footage right here. So actually let's call this one Flames, and let's call this one background, and just make it the same duration. Delete that, and we are ready. So first of all, let's drop our texture in. This is a texture that I've shot, and let's make it a 3D layer and hit P for the position and move it 1000 pixels backwards. And let's create a new composition and let's call it logo, and drop the ATutsPlus logo here. Probably scale it down a bit like so, and let's drop this composition right here in this comp and make it a 3D layer again, and hit P for the position and move it 500 pixels backwards. And if we come to custom view, you can see how it looks. So the next thing that we are going to do is to create a new white. Come to layer and choose a new white and make it a point white with a 100% intensity probably, and let's make this shadow diffusion 25 for now and hit OK. And take the flames, actually let's come to the flames, and as you can see we don't have any alpha channel at this point, so we need to extract only the flames and get rid of the black. So come to effect, channel, and choose set matte effect, and use for matte. We are going to use the luminance of this footage, so let's choose luminance, and as you can see this is how our flames look like right now. And we can just duplicate this, but better leave only the flames and duplicate the actual composition that we are going to use in the other compositions. So let's leave it like so for now, and let's put the flames here and go to the active camera And actually let's create a new camera and make it a 35 millimeters, and let's create a new object and duplicate it, and let's rename the first one to camera, and let's rename the second one to white Wigo, and let's make it a 3D layer, the first one, and link the camera to this new object. So let's hit P for the position, and we want to animate our camera to move forward. So for example, let's set a keyframe right here and move it a bit backwards, and right here something like that. Right click and make this easy ease, so we have a smooth end of the movement, and let's make this one easy ease again. And we need to move our white right here. Hit P to review the position, and move the white right here. And we are going to animate the white that comes with the fire, as you can see from this point right here, and move 10 frames forward or 15, and our white should be around here, and probably we can move it down a bit like so. And right now it's time to animate our white, and first of all let's make our logo cast shadows. So hit A twice, hit A twice to review the 3D options for the layer, and let's see, cast shadows, and as you can see we have shadows. So let's turn the shadow darkness down a bit to 75%, and probably choose the color for the white to be something, take color from the flames, and maybe a bit brighter color, something like that I think will work. And let's move this keyframe right here for the camera, and come to the white Wigo, and come to effect, expression controls, and apply a slider control and duplicate it. And the first one will be position Wigo, and the second will be intensity Wigo. So the tricky part here is to try to fake the look that actually the fire is going to white, and the logo will react to this white. So it moves really fast, and the shadow will move around, and the white will flicker and stuff like that. So we want to fake that look, and for this purpose we are going to come to intensity and increase it a bit by default, and alt click on the intensity. Before we link it, let's type Wigo 6, and link it to the intensity slider. And let's come to the position and do the same, just alt click and type Wigo 6, and link it to the position slider, and unlock that. And right now we can keyframe the amount of wiggle for the position and the intensity of our white. So let's do that right now. Come to right here where the fire comes and set a keyframe for both position and intensity, and move 10 or 12 frames forward and set the position to 150 and the intensity to 75. And this way, as you can see, we are faking that kind of look because the shadow moves around really quickly and randomly, as it's supposed to move when it's affected by the white of the fire, because it moves random. So we don't need these flames here right now, so we can delete this, and we're going to use the depth of field of our camera. So let's hit AA twice to review the depth of field options, and let's enable the depth of field actually, and let's set the aperture to 250 and the border level to 300, so we get this dramatic depth of field look. And let's come to this second right here to 4 seconds mark, and let's set a keyframe for the focus distance, and let's try to keep it like so, and come to the 7 seconds mark and increase it a bit. So we focus, and the idea that in the beginning the flames will be in focus, and after that we're going to fake a rack focus effect and focus on the wall. So that's it for this composition. I think this is our background composition, and for the texture we need to edit the texture a bit. So I'm going to come to Effect, Channel, and choose Invert, and just use a levels to increase the contrast just a bit, and let's switch the project to 32 bits. So just alt click and click right here to do that, and we are going to drop this composition into another composition. So let's drop the background composition into new composition, and let's call this one main comp and hit OK. And now let's import our flames composition right here, and just make it a 3D layer, and come to the background composition and just copy the camera and the null to our main composition. And as you can see, the flames are cut out, so we are going to scale this a bit and keep it like so. And this is our composition for the flames that we are going to use as a matte for the background, and you will see why in a minute. Just we are going to apply levels and increase the alpha like so, and we are going to apply a tint and blur and sharpen, and let's apply a quick fast blur and blur it like so. And we are going to use this as a alpha matte. So the idea right here is to make the effect that it seems that the flames light up the background and everything, and I'm going to get back to our white and increase the shadow diffusion to 50% and probably the darkness to 60 because it's too dark. And we are faking that look that the flames actually white up the background, and we are going to drop another composition with the flames and make it a 3D layer, and again scale it up. This will be our actual composition of the flames, and we are going to duplicate this one and set it to screen, but set the bottom one to screen, as you can see. And we are going to do another thing. We are going to apply another trick here. So we are going to take this core and create shape like this, and set the feather to 150, set the blending mode to add, set this one right here, and again use the flames as a alpha matte, and this way probably come to the main composition and remove the levels adjustment, and this way we are going to get this white from the bottom, which make the composition look better, because it simulates that we have a lot of white and fire below on the edge of our composition, and this look a bit unnatural to me, so I'm going to increase the blur a bit, because we are going to need something like that. It looks more natural, as you can see. And another thing that we are going to do is to duplicate the flames layer again, and let's see, we are going to apply a tint effect, and we are going to apply a curves and boost the alpha channel a lot, and we are going to apply a levels. Actually, we are going to use the curves like so, and finally we are going to apply a fast blur and just blur this one a bit, and let's see if we make this one a 2D layer and pre-compose it and move our attributes to the new composition, and let's call this one flames displacement, and make it a 3D layer and scale it up. Come to the background and come to effect, distort, and choose displacement map, and we are going to use the flames displacement and set this to 4 and 4, and we are going to use the luminance channel, and as you can see, this will fake a heat haze effect where the flames move on top of the wall, but this is a bit unnatural. That's why we are going to create a new composition, and let's call it displacement main. Create a new solid, doesn't matter what color, and we are going to apply a fractal noise and probably use something like that, and increase the contrast, reduce the brightness, set the evolution and type time times 300, for example, because we want fast moving fractal noise, and we are going to animate the offset turbulence. So set a keyframe in the beginning and move it like so, and probably apply a CC vector blur to make the effect better, and probably scale this one up a bit and move it more, and this will be our displacement map and the vector board doesn't look too good to me. That's why I'm going to apply a fast blur, and this is going to be our displacement map right here. So let's drop it in and turn it off and come to the background, duplicate the layer, and let's come to displacement main, and we are going to increase this a bit, and it creates a more natural look, as you can see, because here is without it and here is with it. As you can see, if we remove that, it still creates a nice heat haze effect. So let's keep both, and now we are almost ready. As you can see, our flames are in focus in the beginning, and moving forward we change the focus to the ATUTS plus logo. So let's create another solid, and let's call this particles, and let's apply trap code particular and so the layer, and let's open the emitter options, and we are going to animate the particles per second. So let's come to the timeline and come to the 1 second mark and set a keyframes for particles per second and set this to 0. Move 1 frame forward and increase the particles to 20. After that, move to the 8 second mark and set a keyframe for the particles and move 10 frames forward and decrease the size, actually decrease the number of particles, excuse me, and set the emitter type to box, and let's move the position right here, and let's increase the emitter X size to the size of our composition, and the emitter Z size to something like that. So we have our particles, as you can see. Now let's play with the other settings. Come to the particle and set the particle life to second and a bit more, and set the life random to 50% because we want our particles to have different life. And the sphere type is okay. Reduce the feather a bit and increase the size, as well as we want the size to be random, and the size over life and the opacity over life we are going to leave that. And come to the transfer mode, set it to add, and come to the core and choose it over life. So let's open the core gradient right here, and we are going to use probably this one, and remove this. We want to start with the kind of a reddish orange particles, and at the end to increase the color to almost something like that. So you can play around with these settings and get the look you need. And then the most important thing, come to the physics and set the gravity to negative 400. And as you can see, this will make our particles move upwards. And as you may expect, we are going to add a bit of a turbulence to our particles. So let's open the turbulence field and let's set this one to 200 and change the scale, and you can visualize fields if you're using Trapcode Particular version 2. This will help you to set the settings that you need. And let's see, we need to increase this a bit and reduce the evolution speed. And basically that's it. You need to experiment with the settings. I found that the settings work best for me. And finally we need to adjust the rendering. So the depth of field, we can turn this off or use the camera settings, which is set by default. And for the motion blur, we can use the comp settings or turn it on right here, and probably use a subframe sample and set this right here like so. And I think this works pretty good. Let's turn this off. And as you can see, we can increase the speed a bit if we like, but I think this is good enough. So to finish this, we need to change the transfer mode to add and set the opacity to, let's see if we move it right here, set the opacity to 70% and probably apply a bit of tint, just a tiny bit, to desaturate these particles. And as you can see, they die immediately right now, but what I want is that they get brighter when they die, like burn out. And we are going to duplicate this layer, set the opacity to 60% and come to the opacity overwipe and right here, let's see if we can do this, and something like that will work great, I think. And this is going to make our particles get brighter the moment before they die. So as you can see, and we need to extend and make the effect more visible, so we are going to apply a curves adjustment and just increase the contrast of these particles and come to the alpha and boost the alpha of the particles. So as you can see, they get really brighter and die. So we can copy this effect and paste it here and reduce the alpha a bit, and probably set this to 60% or so. And as you can see, this is our effect for now, and we are going to take this main composition and drop it into another composition, which we are going to rename to render comp, and we are going to apply a color correction curves, of course, and color correction tint, noise and grain, add grain, and we are going to choose the final output and probably set the curves first. Let's adjust the contrast just a bit and set the tint, because we are a bit oversaturated right now. We are going to put a bit of tint right there and set this to 0.3 and 0.25, and as you can see we get this nice kind of a grainy look, and maybe 0.5 and increase the size a bit, and that's up to you, as you can see. And come to the logo, actually the background composition, and apply a fastboard to the logo, just 1 or 2 pixels, because it looks very sharp and unnatural in some points. And actually, because our camera is moving, we are losing the logo and it comes out of focus. That's why we are going to animate our focus distance, and let's just copy this keyframe and come to the main comp and just paste it. And as you can see, this is our final result. We have the fire coming and burning right here, and we have our 8tuts+ logo, probably too much tint. We have our displacement effects and ashes particles, etc. And I think you can get even better results by keying the flames if you're using Unmode, which is a free plugin by Red Giant Software, but I'm not sure if they have it working for CS 5.5, which I'm using right now. So this way works too. And I think this is the end of tutorial, and I think this is the end of this tutorial. Finally, you can add, for example, a sound effect to make the design look better. And that's it. Hope you liked the tutorial. And by the way, this technique can be used for a number of things, and it's very helpful and interesting, I think, to use the flames as a matte to review the background and fake a lightning coming from the flames. So once again, I'm Stefan for 8tuts+.com, and we'll see you next time.